Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Mohamed Salah and his mix on into. Obviously, Paul, you were there. You were front and centre of it. So before we talk about this specifically, rather what Mo said and the comments and the fallout from it, just paint us the picture, mate, of how it comes across in that mix on. How does the whole interview come about? Does Mo come over with a cob on? Just let us know how it all panned out.
Yeah, we got a little bit of an inkling after the game that Mo might have been feeling chatty. Very rare that he is, isn't he? You know, that's only the fourth time he stopped in a mix zone. The most previous time was 13 months ago at Southampton. I was there for that one as well. But he came past, and because it was an away game, it wasn't necessarily the same faces he sees every week. But he did sort of spot me, and I said to him, as I do most weeks, Mo, have you got 2 minutes? And normally it's not today, and only walks with a grin. And I assumed because he hadn't played that he'd just say the same thing, but nothing ventured and all of that. And he said something about he needs a shower and he'll be back. And I wasn't sure that he was being sarcastic at first because he hadn't played in the game. So it was almost like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, why would he need a shower? He hasn't kicked the ball. But speaking to a couple of my colleagues who was there, we decided to basically hold our nerve and hope that Mo was being genuine. And Isak walked past, Andy Robertson, Joe Gomez was there. We all just decided not to ask them, so they come by, and he returned about 10 or 15 minutes later in a different training kit. So he had a shower, and I guess while he was getting himself clean, he was thinking about what to say, and it was very deliberate. It was very preempted. It was not angry. It was not off the cuff. It was something that had been very sort of well thought out, and I guess that was a decision taken with him and his agent to go nuclear. And I couldn't believe it when he started saying about being thrown under the bus and he's got no relationship with Slot. It was gobsmacking. It genuinely was. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but that's how he feels. Yeah,
it's interesting, that first part, because again, sometimes players have just walked off a pitch or they've just walked off a bench, and I'm not saying you would do this, but sometimes on TV a microphone gets shoved in the face, and then sometimes they say something and they probably want to walk that back a little bit. But I always get the sense with Mo, again, like I say, it's fourth time in 8 years that he's done this kind of thing. And listen, I think it's fair to say the last time he did it, Southampton, was again, contract-wise, it felt premeditated that time as well, to try and put a bit of pressure on and just try and get the message out there. So this doesn't seem like the ramblings of a man who was just he saw his team concede the last minute goal when he wasn't on the pitch, and just his head's gone a little bit. It does feel like there was some method behind because it's not madness, isn't it? It feels like this was a plan to come and he wanted to get these points out into the media and into the wider world, it feels like, anyway. Well, he knew what he was doing last year, didn't he, at Southampton, when he just scored 2 goals. Liverpool won 3-2, and I think they're 8 points clear at the time in late November, and there'd been no progress on a new contract that he was desperate to secure. So he certainly knew that he could speak to us on that occasion, and it had put the cats amongst the pigeons. But this was a whole new level, really. This was just, it was shocking, really. I don't think any of us knew how severe the issue was, because it had only been a week. I've seen Josh Williams on this channel earlier this week saying it's only been a week. It was 6 days between the West Ham game and the Leeds game. It's Sunday to Saturday, 6 days, 3 games, one of which he plays 45 minutes in, and that has been enough for him to, detonate the bomb, which suggests to me that it's probably something that's been rumbling for more than just a week. He was left on the bench for the Frankfurt game. He changes his profile picture on Twitter and all that, playing silly beggars. But this was just fronting up and, venting his spleen, wasn't it? And, where that leaves his Liverpool career as a whole now is shocking. The bit about ringing his mum and his dad, telling him to get over for the Brighton game and he's just going to enjoy it, whatever happens. It was almost like this could actually be his last game for Liverpool, and he might not even be involved. Yeah, we'll touch upon that shortly, mate. But from a journalistic point of view, I'm guessing, as you're hearing this, and it goes on for a while, like it's a long interview again. Yeah. I think a lot of people saw footage from it. It was leaked, wasn't it, and stuff. We all kind of got that and the gist of how he was speaking about it. As you're listening to this, is your head just like, wow, this is like... Yeah. You know very, very quickly that this is one of the bigger stories that are going to be breaking in world football, really. This is as big as it gets. Is that this all, because you're trying to conduct an interview, a mixed zone interview, with all this is going on your head as well, you must know at this moment in time this is going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in there, I can only speak for myself, but you're sort of thinking, what can you ask? And whatever comes after it comes after it, But very early on, almost within his first answer, it was like, this is a bigger deal than any of us had any idea, really. The bit about being thrown on the bus was jaw-dropping. It was just, wow, I can't believe it's got to this point. But yeah, as soon as he walks away, it was 7.5 minutes. Normally, if you get a chance to speak to a player, it's probably under 5. Sometimes Virgil might do, 7 to 8, 10, depending on who he's with. He's got a good relationship with most of us for that sort of stuff. But this was, like I say, very preemptive, very strategic from him and his camp. I think the Southampton one was probably only maybe 2 or 3 minutes. This 7.5, extraordinary really. So clearly he wanted to make his point, and he's probably achieved maximum damage, was the phrase Jamie Carragher used. I think he's done that, hasn't he? Because now it was all that Arnold got asked about on Monday in Milan. It's probably all he's going to get asked about tomorrow. I thought he had a point when he said, let's talk about the players who are here. Let's talk about the game that we're here to preview. But tomorrow might be a little bit different. And what happens now is anyone's guess.
Yeah, it is mad really, because again, when you first read it, you're like, oh my God, is this being taken out of context? And obviously it hasn't. We know that. What I found fascinating, Paul, was like how far he was willing to go, but where he also stopped. So for example, I think it was yourself who asked him, like, is someone throwing him under the bus, is it Richard Hughes? And he goes like, don't put words in my mouth. I think that's roughly the phrase he uses. So he's gone to a certain level, but he hasn't gone past that. There's still a little bit of ambiguity in there as well. It does feel like, again, a bit of a... You used the word strategic, it's a good word. Like he knows exactly where he's going to, what he wants to say to an extent. Probably had a rough idea of the terminology he's going to use as well. But yeah, he hasn't gone like to a point where he's named specific names as well. He has kind of drew a line there, which again perhaps hints at the fact that he kind of knew exactly what he was going to be doing when he spoke to you guys. Yeah,
definitely. It was interesting because I think he said something along the lines of someone in the club doesn't want me here or something, and did he mean Slot by that? I think he might have just said that, if that's what he meant, because he spoke about not having a relationship with Slot, and maybe that is what he meant. But does that go further up the chain? An underperforming 33-year-old who's on a king's ransom of a wage, the highest paid player in the club's entire history, and we know that they've just spent, an extortion that was a 440 million, recouped around half of that, so it's not that bad on the balance sheet. But Liverpool can't really afford to miss out on the Champions League as a result of that investment, can they? So, is that something that he was, looking to get his point across with? It's that's all speculation, but certainly it does feel, in Salah's eyes at least, that the relationship is maybe beyond repair with Slot, and it'd be sad if that was the case. I hope not. I hope there is an olive branch extended and cooler heads do prevail. I thought it was fascinating hearing Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football, and then Steven Gerrard with TNT, and two real legendary, iconic figures, aren't they, at the club, certainly in the 21st century. And I think what Gerrard was saying in particular should resonate with Mo in terms of, can you just sit down, thrash this one out and move past it and go on to continue being a star for Liverpool for the rest of your contract, but Mo might have other ideas at the moment.
On that, it's interesting because this is kind of the crux of it, isn't it? I suppose is kind of what comes next and how this follows. So the first point, and I saw the Athletic today report this, and I know it's been reported widely in other places, is that Liverpool stands for what we're led to believe is they want to keep Mo Salah. There's nobody officially putting out there that Mo Salah's for sale. There's an asking price, we're willing to let him go. The stance is we're wanting to keep him. So again, either there's a miscommunication here. Someone's lying, which can happen, I suppose, and you don't want to put that out there. Or Mo's just a bit upset that he's been left on a bench for a week, and he just feels like the whole world's against him because he's not used to this. And it's worth mentioning the reason some superstar players are superstar players is because they've got massive egos, and that's fine. Like they have, it's what makes them great. It's what makes them unbelievable footballers. They are so driven and determined. That's why he's in the gym at 2 a.m. every morning. Like they're just a different breed that we can't really comprehend, but. It is fascinating. Where are you seeing this? Because he clearly thinks I'm on the bench because they're trying to get rid of me. Yeah. The Liverpool stance is it was a performance thing. It was a manager selection. It feels like Arne Slot when he'd give his explanation. It was about we want to be a bit more solid, and we thought that using Sobo on that right hand side would be benefits. So. Where are we? Do we think it's more, as Ed's just gone because he's been left on the bench, or actually is there something undercurrent here that we just don't know about?
Yeah, I mean, we can't speculate too far beyond that, can we? But I hope it is just a case of, Mo being a bit disgruntled after a disappointing week, really, where, they beat West Ham, but then, a couple of disappointing draws with Sunderland and Leeds, newly promoted clubs who, when you looked at that fixture list in June, you would have expected 6 points, and Salah to have started both of those. So I hope it is that more than something a bit insidious. But you know, it can happen, can't it? In terms of, he hasn't been performing brilliantly. I don't think he's alone in that at all. I don't think Liverpool are having a great season. It's just him who's well below it. I think a lot of them have, really. But, you know, when you're not performing, sometimes you get taken out of the team, and it's a temporary measure until you sort of get firing again. And, you know, the irony being, had he not come out with the outburst on Saturday, he would have played on Tuesday night. And he might have been a difference maker. You know, Liverpool got that late penalty. It's probably him who takes it. And, you know, if he scores, then he's the hero, isn't he? And, you know, it's sliding doors moment, really, that interview, potentially, for the rest of his Liverpool career.
That was a clip from Journo Insight. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.